What if I told you there's a food, readily available, inexpensive, and often overlooked, that contains more high-quality protein than an egg and could dramatically slow, even reverse, age muscle loss? Sarcopenia, the gradual wasting of muscle tissue that begins as early as our 30s, isn't just a cosmetic issue. It's a major predictor of metabolic decline, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and even cognitive aging. And yet, most people don't know how to fight it effectively. Here's the reality. You could be hitting the gym regularly, eating clean, even getting plenty of rest, and still losing lean muscle year by year, unless you're getting the right kind of protein in the right amount at the right time. This is where science delivers a surprising tool, a food source that gram for gram contains more leucine-rich, muscle-sparing protein than eggs, and one that activates a key metabolic pathway called mTOR, which is essential for muscle growth and maintenance. And no, it's not a trendy powder or supplement. It's something simpler. In this episode, we're going to break down why this food beats eggs in muscle-preserving protein quality, the neuroscience of how muscle mass preserves cognitive function and emotional resilience, how to use timing, digestion speed, and amino acid profiles to your advantage, a simple daily protocol to support strength, energy, and longevity, even into your 70s and beyond. You'll walk away with a clear plan, grounded in research, for using food as a true performance tool, because when we talk about optimizing the body, we're not just talking aesthetics. We're talking about protecting your mobility, confidence, and independence for life. Let's dive into the science and into your strength. If you ask most people to name a high-protein food, they'll say eggs. And rightly so. Eggs are a nearly perfect food, affordable, nutrient-dense, and bioavailable. One large egg contains about 6 grams of high-quality protein, rich in essential amino acids. But here's the surprise. Cottage cheese contains more protein per serving, and it's even more effective at supporting overnight muscle maintenance. Let's get specific. A typical 1/2 cup serving of low-fat cottage cheese contains 14 grams of protein, more than 2 eggs. And it's predominantly casein, a slow-digesting protein. This slow absorption matters. What's happening in your body when you sleep is a kind of natural fasting state. Between dinner and breakfast, you're likely going 8 to 10 hours without food. If your body doesn't have a steady stream of amino acids during this time, it may begin to break down muscle tissue to meet its needs, especially if you're over 30, when sarcopenia begins to accelerate. Here's where casein protein becomes powerful. Because it digests slowly, releasing amino acids into the bloodstream for up to 7 hours, it creates a steady drip of nourishment for your muscles while you sleep. It's like putting your muscles on an IV drip of recovery fuel, reducing nighttime catabolism and promoting protein synthesis. Compare this to eggs. While they're rich in nutrients like choline and vitamin D, their protein is absorbed much faster, which is ideal in some cases, like post-workout, but less effective for overnight muscle preservation. A 2012 study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that participants who consumed 40 grams of casein protein before sleep showed significantly greater overnight muscle protein synthesis compared to those who didn't. More recent research from Nutrients 2019 supports this as well, emphasizing that pre-sleep protein intake improves muscle mass and strength gains, especially in older adults. So the food we're talking about, cottage cheese, isn't just a snack. It's a timing tool that, when eaten 30 to 60 minutes before bed, helps shift your body from muscle breakdown mode into repair mode. Here's how to use it. Simple tool, pre-sleep muscle protocol, 1/2 to 1 cup of low-fat cottage cheese, 14 to 28 g of protein. Optional, add cinnamon, a few walnuts, or a teaspoon of honey for taste, and added nutrients. Consume 30 to 60 minutes before sleep, ideally after resistance training or a long active day. You may be wondering, what about lactose intolerance? Great question. Many brands of cottage cheese are now lactose-free, and some alternatives, like casein protein isolate, offer similar benefits. But the key is slow digesting leucine-rich protein that fuels your muscles throughout the night. Here's the deeper principle. Muscle preservation isn't just about how much protein you eat, it's about when and what kind. Cottage cheese works not because it's trendy or exotic, but because it aligns with the biological rhythms of digestion and muscle protein turnover. And that's the point. When you understand the science, everyday foods can become powerful performance tools. Imagine you had a switch in your body, one that, when flipped on, told your muscles, grow, repair, stay strong. That switch exists. It's called mTOR, short for mechanistic target of rapamycin. And it's one of the most powerful regulators of muscle protein synthesis in your body. But here's the catch. mTOR isn't always on. In fact, most of the time, especially as we age, it's either dormant or only mildly activated. That's why simply eating more protein doesn't always preserve muscle. To truly activate mTOR, you need a threshold amount of a specific amino acid, leucine. Leucine is what we call a branch-chained amino acid, BCAA. It plays a critical role in signaling your muscle cells to start the rebuilding process. When you ingest enough leucine, typically around 2.5 to 3 grams per meal, you flip that mTOR switch and trigger a cascade of muscle building activity. Without leucine, it's like having construction materials but no foreman to direct the build. So how does this tie back to cottage cheese? Well, cottage cheese is naturally high in leucine, especially compared to many plant-based sources and even some meats. 1 cup of low-fat cottage cheese contains roughly 2.6 grams of leucine, just enough to stimulate muscle protein synthesis in most adults. That makes it a strategic choice not just for overall protein, but for triggering the muscle growth process in the first place. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition, 2006, highlighted that leucine-rich meals increased muscle protein synthesis by up to 25% more than lower leucine meals, even when total protein intake was matched. Another 2011 trial in clinical nutrition showed that leucine supplementation improved muscle mass and strength in older adults, even without changes in exercise routines. This means that quality matters more than quantity. A bowl of cottage cheese before bed may do more for your muscle mass than a larger but lower leucine dinner. Here's a tool you can use right now. Leucine threshold protocol per meal. Aim for 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine at each meal. This equals 1 cup of cottage cheese or 5 O's chicken breast, or 2.5 scoops of most whey protein powders. Spread protein-rich meals evenly across the day. 3 to 4 meals. Here's why this matters psychologically and neurologically. Maintaining muscle mass isn't just about strength. Studies now show strong links between muscle health and mental resilience through mechanisms like insulin sensitivity, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, and inflammation control. In fact, low muscle mass is associated with cognitive decline and increased risk of depression in older adults. So when you trigger mTOR and build muscle, you're not just improving how you move, you're optimizing how you think and feel. And one more thing, mTOR activity naturally declines with age. That's why older adults often need more protein and more leucine per meal than younger people, just to get the same anabolic response. It's not about eating like you're 25. It's about eating strategically for your age and biology. If this insight is helping you rethink your nutrition through a scientific lens, consider subscribing. We dive deep into tools like this every week to help you optimize your body and brain with evidence-backed precision. The key takeaway here is this: muscle isn't just made from protein. It's signaled into existence by the right type of protein. And leucine is the signal that matters most. Most people think muscle loss happens because of inactivity or aging alone. But the truth is, a major driver of sarcopenia, the gradual decline of muscle with age is poorly timed protein intake. Here's what the research shows. Your body's ability to build and preserve muscle is strongly influenced by your internal clock. This biological timing system, known as your circadian rhythm, governs not just sleep and energy, but also how well your cells respond to nutrients. Let's look at what happens in your body over a 24-hour cycle. Muscle protein synthesis, MPS, is not a constant process. It has windows of heightened sensitivity, especially after resistance exercise, early in the day, and while you sleep. But if you skip protein in those windows or consume too little of the right kind, your body may enter a state of net muscle breakdown. Now, here's the kicker. Most people eat the majority of their daily protein at dinner and very little at breakfast. A 2020 review in the Journal of Nutrition found that this uneven distribution leads to less total muscle protein synthesis over time. Compared to spreading protein evenly across 3 to 4 meals per day. Even more compelling, studies have shown that consuming protein right before bed, especially slow digesting proteins like casein, can significantly enhance overnight muscle repair. This is because sleep is a prime time for growth hormone release, tissue regeneration, and memory consolidation. And if your body lacks amino acids during that period, it can't perform these functions optimally. A 2015 study in Frontiers in Nutrition found that pre-sleep protein intake increased overnight MPS by 22% and improved strength gains in older adults over 12 weeks of training. Another study in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that those who consumed 30 to 40 g of casein protein before bed had greater lean mass gains than those who didn't, even when total daily protein intake was the same. So what does this mean for you? Simple tool. 3 times protein distribution protocol, eat 20 to 40 g of protein at each major meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Add a pre-sleep protein feeding, like 1 cup of cottage cheese or 30 g casein shake. Time protein-rich meals within 2 hours post-workout. And within 1 hour of waking, if you're training in the evening, that bedtime protein becomes even more powerful, aligning with both elevated muscle repair signaling and your natural recovery rhythms during sleep. Now, there's an important mindset shift here. Instead of asking, did I get enough protein today? Start asking, did I get enough protein at the right time today? It's like watering a plant. You can pour 3 liters of water all at once at night, but it won't grow as well as when it gets a steady, timed supply throughout the day. And here's the bonus. This rhythm not only supports muscle health, it also helps stabilize energy, regulate appetite, and improve cognitive performance. Balanced protein intake reduces blood sugar spikes, supports dopamine production, and keeps you mentally sharper for longer. This is how we go from random eating to strategic nutrition, from reacting to our hunger to aligning with our biology. Because strength isn't just built in the gym, it's built in the kitchen, and it's protected during sleep. When we think about building or preserving muscle, we usually think of strength, mobility, and aging gracefully. But there's a deeper truth that most people miss. Muscle is medicine for the brain. That's not a metaphor, it's neuroscience. Skeletal muscle doesn't just help you move through space. It's metabolically active tissue that influences everything from blood sugar regulation to hormone balance and even brain plasticity. Let's break it down. When you engage your muscles through resistance training, walking, or even isometric tension, your body releases molecules called myokines. These are small signaling proteins released by muscle fibers that travel through the bloodstream and communicate with other organs, including your brain. One of the most powerful myokines is irisin, which is released during physical activity and has been shown in studies to stimulate brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a key molecule that supports the growth of new neurons and synapses. BDNF is often called fertilizer for the brain, plays a critical role in learning, memory, and emotional regulation. So when you preserve lean muscle, especially through protein-centered nutrition and movement, you're not just building strength, you're building resilience, clarity, and emotional stability. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that lower muscle mass was significantly associated with higher levels of depressive symptoms in older adults, independent of physical activity. Another study in Neurology, 2022, showed that higher midlife muscle mass predicted lower risk of dementia later in life, even after adjusting for cardiovascular and lifestyle factors. What's the takeaway? Losing muscle isn't just about weaker legs or frailer bones. It affects how you think, how you feel, and how resilient you are to stress. Here's a simple principle to live by. If you want to stay mentally sharp, emotionally stable, and physically capable, protect your muscle mass like it's your brain, because it is. Muscle also improves insulin sensitivity, reducing the spikes and crashes in blood glucose that can lead to brain fog, fatigue, and poor mood regulation. This is especially important as we age, when the brain becomes more vulnerable to energy imbalances and inflammation. And speaking of inflammation, muscle helps reduce it. Chronic low-grade inflammation, often called inflaging, is a major driver of age cognitive decline. But resistance training, combined with adequate protein, especially leucine-rich sources like cottage cheese, has been shown to reduce markers of systemic inflammation, such as CRP and IL-6. So what does this mean behaviorally? Fuel, muscle-brain circuit, eat protein-rich meals spaced evenly through the day, including pre-sleep, strength train 2 to 4 times per week, even using body weight or resistance bands, walk 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day to stimulate continual myokine release, prioritize sleep and hydration, which are essential for both muscle recovery and cognitive performance. And if you've ever felt more confident, focused, or calm after a good workout, that's not just endorphins. It's the cascade of biochemical feedback from muscle to brain. If this connection between physical strength and mental resilience resonates with you, consider subscribing. This channel is all about helping you master your biology so you can master your life. Muscle isn't just for athletes or bodybuilders. It's a protective asset, one of the most powerful levers we have for aging well, thinking clearly, and living with vitality. Not all proteins are created equal, and not just in their amino acid profiles, but in how fast or slow they digest. This matters far more than most people realize, because when it comes to preserving muscle, especially during times of fasting like sleep or long work days, the speed at which amino acids are delivered to your bloodstream can make the difference between muscle breakdown and muscle repair. Here's the core idea. Fast digesting proteins like whey and eggs spike amino acid levels quickly, making them ideal post-workout, when your muscles are primed for rapid repair. Slow digesting proteins like casein, the primary protein in cottage cheese, release amino acids gradually over 6 to 8 hours, providing a steady anabolic effect, which is particularly useful during periods when you're not eating. This concept was demonstrated clearly in a landmark study published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 1997, which compared casein and whey protein. The findings showed that whey protein led to a rapid but short-lived increase in plasma amino acids, while casein created a moderate but sustained elevation, significantly reducing protein breakdown over several hours. Why does this matter? Because your body is always in flux, either in a state of muscle protein synthesis, building, or muscle protein breakdown, catabolism. The goal isn't to be in building mode 24/7, but to tilt the balance toward preservation and repair more often, especially as you age. Here's where slow digesting proteins shine. During sleep, your body goes 7 to 10 hours without external fuel. If you're not providing slow-release amino acids before bed, your body may tap into muscle tissue for energy, especially if your total daily protein or leucine intake is suboptimal. The same applies to long days with delayed meals, intermittent fasting, or high stress, which increases cortisol, a muscle-wasting hormone, In all these cases, slow digesting proteins act like a buffer, maintaining muscle protein availability while minimizing breakdown. Okay. Tool, digestive strategy for muscle maintenance. Use fast digesting proteins, whey, eggs, chicken, after workouts or first thing in the morning. Casein, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, before bed, or during long fasts. For best results, pair slow proteins with a small amount of fat or fiber to further slow absorption and enhance satiety. Let's make this practical. If you finish dinner at 7 p.m. and don't eat again until 9 a.m., that's a 14-hour fast. Even with solid protein intake during the day, your muscles are vulnerable overnight unless you've provided slow digesting amino acids in the evening. That's why something like 1 cup of cottage cheese or a 30g casein shake before bed is such a powerful science-supported move. And if you're doing time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting, this strategy becomes even more important. Rather than cramming all your protein into an 8-hour window, prioritize slow Benesse sources toward the end of your eating window to extend the anabolic benefits well into your fast. There's also a behavioral benefit. Slow digesting proteins increase satiety, helping regulate appetite and reduce late-night cravings, especially for sugar or ultra-processed carbs. So if you're trying to lose fat without losing muscle, a common challenge, slow proteins can help you stay in a mild caloric deficit while protecting lean mass. It's not just about what you eat, it's about what your body can use and when it can use it. That's the digestive equation. And once you understand it, you can time your nutrition like a tool, not a guess. By the time we reach our 30s, we begin losing muscle quietly, subtly, at a rate of about 3 to 8% per decade, accelerating after age 60. This process, known as sarcopenia, isn't just about looking older. It's about reduced strength, increased risk of injury, lower metabolic health, and even cognitive decline. But here's the empowering truth. You can reverse this process, not with extreme workouts, not with trendy supplements, but with a precise daily protocol built on biology, not guesswork. This isn't about overhauling your life overnight. It's about aligning your daily rhythms, what you eat, when you eat, how you move, and how you rest, with how your body naturally maintains lean mass. Let's walk through it step by step. The daily strength protocol. Preserve muscle after 31. Protein timing, 3 to 4 feedings per day. Eat 30 to 40 g of protein per meal, spaced across 3 to 4 meals. Prioritize complete proteins high in leucine. Eat eggs, poultry, fish, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or whey. Use a slow digesting protein, like 1 cup cottage cheese or 30g casein, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Why it works. This spreads amino acid availability throughout the day and overnight, keeping your body in an anabolic or anti-catabolic state more often. 2, leucine-triggered meals ensure each meal contains at least 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine. Examples: 5-O's chicken breast, 1 cup low-fat cottage cheese, 2.5 scoops whey protein. Why it works? Leucine flips the switch on mTOR, initiating muscle repair and growth. Total protein matters, but leucine is the trigger. 3, resistance training 3 to 4 times per week. Lift weights, do resistance bands or body weight exercises like squats, push-ups, and planks. Focus on compound movements that recruit multiple muscle groups. Train to near fatigue, but prioritize consistency over intensity. Why it works. Muscle needs both stimulus and supply. Exercise breaks down tissue, but also signals growth when paired with protein. 4, daily movement and myokines. Walk 7 to 10,000 steps/day, or aim for 30 minutes of light movement, optional. Add short bursts of intensity like stair climbs or hill walks. Why it works. Muscle is an endocrine organ. Movement releases myokines that support metabolism, mood, and brain health. 5, Sleep optimization, 7 to 9 hours. Wind down with low light 60 minutes before bed. Consider magnesium glycinate or breath work if struggling with sleep. Onset, prioritize consistent wake and sleep times. Why it works. Sleep is when muscle repair, hormone balancing, and brain recovery occur. It also supports GH, growth hormone, release. Essential for lean mass. 6, avoid muscle saboteurs. Minimize ultra-processed foods, alcohol, and long periods of inactivity. Don't over-rely on cardio if your goal is muscle preservation. Balance is key. Reduce chronic stress. High cortisol degrades muscle tissue over time. Why it works. It's not just what you do, but what you avoid that shapes your longevity and performance. This protocol isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. You don't need to obsess over macros or train like an athlete, but you do need to feed your body the signal and the materials it needs to build and maintain the engine of your independence, your muscle. Because muscle is what lifts your body out of a chair. It's what stabilizes your joints, regulates your energy, sharpens your brain, and protects your life as you age. You don't lose muscle because you age. You lose muscle because you stop giving your body a reason and the resources to hold on to it. Now you have the tools to do exactly that. We started this journey with a simple idea. There's a food that has more protein than eggs, and it can help you fight muscle loss fast. But along the way, we uncovered something deeper. We didn't just talk about protein. We talked about preserving your capacity to live, move, and think with strength as you age. Let's briefly recap the science-backed insights. Cottage cheese isn't just a snack, it's a tool. With more protein than eggs and rich in slow-digesting casein, it's uniquely suited to fuel your muscles through the night. Muscle growth isn't random. It's triggered by leucine activating the mTOR pathway. Without hitting that leucine threshold per meal, your muscle repair machinery stays dormant. Timing is everything. Your body responds best when protein is spaced across 3 to 4 meals, with a final dose before sleep to protect against overnight catabolism. Muscle is far more than physical. It's an endocrine organ that communicates with your brain, boosts emotional resilience, sharpens cognition, and buffers against metabolic decline. Digestion speed matters. Slow proteins like casein drip feed amino acids for 6 to 8 hours, perfect for fasting windows or overnight recovery. And finally, we built a daily protocol, one that uses protein timing, resistance training, movement, and rest to help you preserve muscle and vitality at any age. But here's the most important part. This isn't about building biceps. It's about building a body and brain that can carry you with strength, clarity, and dignity into the next decade of your life. Because sarcopenia isn't inevitable. Yes, muscle declines with age, but only if we let it. And the science is clear. With the right nutrition, movement, and recovery, you can not only slow muscle loss, you can reverse it. So here's a challenge. Just for today, try the pre-sleep protein protocol. Take 1 cup of low-fat cottage cheese, add a sprinkle of cinnamon or a few nuts, eat it 30 to 60 minutes before sleep. That's it. Simple. Science backed up, immediately beneficial. Let your body rebuild while you rest. And if that feels good, if you wake up with more energy, less soreness, more confidence, then you'll know something important. You're in control of more than you thought. Your biology isn't fixed. It's responsive, trainable, upgradable. You just need the right tools and the willingness to use them consistently. If today's episode gave you clarity or inspiration, I'd invite you to do 3 simple things. Like this video to let the algorithm know it's worth spreading. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We release content weekly that helps you optimize your mind, body, and performance through neuroscience and real evidence. And comment below, what was your biggest takeaway? Or even better, what tool are you going to try tonight? This community is here to grow with you, to make science usable, grounded, and life-changing. Because your strength isn't just a trait, it's a choice. And you're making it. one smart decision at a time. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and keep building a body and brain you can rely on.